With Hamza, the pregnancy was just normal, totally uneventful, and he seemed like just a beautiful boy at birth.
He was beautiful. 10 pounds, 2.5 ounces, 22 inches long.
Taylor was planned. Everything seemed normal. She just sat up early. And then she walked at 11 and a half months.
The woman that ran the school said she's doing so great. They offered to have her enter the school early. And then actually at 20 months, she just said that there's some, I don't know what's happened here, but this little girl was doing so wonderful, and I don't know what's going on with this child. I noticed a difference in Caroline. She did things like stimming, where she would line things up and just play endlessly. She didn't sleep. A day didn't go by where she didn't tantrum. Normally 3 or 4 a day, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. One time she hit me in the nose and she knocked me out.
He would be sitting right in front of us, and you would shout his name, say, Hamza, and he would not even look.
December the 20th, I came home from work. It was exactly 7 days after the vaccine. Ryan was running a very high fever. It was over 105. And we were both very concerned. We'd never really seen him that sick. In the emergency room, they gave him a shot of antibiotic and they sent us home.
After that episode, Ryan wasn't...
We were sitting here with a child who basically spent the day spinning in a circle, holding tightly onto milk jugs and juice jugs.
Looking out of his peripheral vision. Ryan's
not the same child that he was before he received the MMR.
He had bronchitis when he was 7 months old, bronchiolitis a year later, and every month upper respiratory viruses with chronic ear infections. And our general pediatrician said it was really important to keep his shots up to date. Meanwhile, we were giving him medications for his ears, for his upper respiratory. And I started really noticing something maybe at 15, 18 months. He wasn't getting better.
Somehow this picture would never leave my memory. Talking to the doctor in a smiling manner, as he's saying, well, he's not developing cognitively. He doesn't have language. He's behind over here. His social skills are impaired. His self-help skills are impaired. And I felt almost like something falling on my head. Boom, once, twice. He's not talking about my child, So I jumped at him, asking him, there's got to be something, some medication, some surgery. And him saying, actually, there is none. You cannot tell me that there's nothing for my child.
We think it's a kind of like a multi-causal, very complex situation that involves the vaccines and toxins and maybe a genetic susceptibility or fragility involved.
The first person I spoke to was Bernie Rimland, and he recommended getting on the internet, and he recommended the supplements. We realized that she was actually biologically sick, and so that's where we started to treat her.
We first took a route of speech therapy because Andrew was pretty much nonverbal. That led us into occupational therapy. Then we started listening programs, auditory integration training, fast forward programs. Andrew is on vitamin B3, B6, B12, the omega oils, the glutathione.
We had a home-based program for Hamza because on any given day we used to have like 3 or 4 aides coming to our house working with Hamza.
I knew that the diagnosis that she got wasn't my child. I knew prior to that she was so bright and she was doing so well, and I knew somewhere in there was my little girl.
The first and foundational thing for parents to accept is that, in fact, recovery is a possibility.
If you have a belief system about autism that it lives in the brain and it's genetic, then when a child comes in with all these problems, you won't see them. But if you have a belief system that it's in the body, then suddenly everything that's staring you in the face can actually make sense. You need to make a transition from seeing what you believe to believing what you see.
This is a medical disease, it's treatable, and that children can be recovered.
My son has gone from a very limited IQ when he was 3 years old to an IQ that is quite normal now, and he's able to function at grade level. That tells me that these kids are not broken permanently.
Unfortunately, the system will still say every child that gets better must have been misdiagnosed. In theory, you can't fix what we call autism.
I think at some point that name will change. In the past, autism indicates no future. Once that has been changed, then there's a more hopeful outlook.
It was so subtle, I didn't even realize it until the occupational therapist came in and said, "This kid is remarkable." You know, it wasn't until then that I finally sat back and said, you know, we've done it.
Caroline is in a mainstream school and probably the most difficult school in South Florida. I mean, if you were to see her, you couldn't pick her out from a crowd.
What we noticed was with each time that we came here, every time that we add something new, we're seeing miraculous, incredible changes in Ryan.
What works for one child may not be what works for another child. A child who maybe isn't as severely affected may recover in a shorter period of time. It may take a year or 2 years or 3 years in order to get a more severe child well. But there's no prize for getting there first.
Hamza probably isn't the only kid out there who recovered from autism. We need to look at the kids who are getting better and why are they getting better.
Our son, when he was diagnosed, was showing severe symptoms.
Yeah, he was actually classified as two percentile. So 98% of the kids were better than him, and he was among the lowest.
Doesn't
2%.
get much worse than that. I want parents to look at him and see where he has gotten to, but not forget where we started.
My mom says that the difference is a miracle. I think it's maybe part miracle, but I think it's a lot of work by people who really, really understand and are starting to make great strides in this area.
When we started to treat these children from the medical perspective, treating their immunological and their gastrointestinal problems, then suddenly we started to see associated improvements in their cognitive function. They started sleeping, they started speaking, and that was the beginning of a very interesting journey.
Ryan is a recovering child. He's not stuck with the autism label for the rest of his life.
You just got to keep studying, testing, controlling, changing things a little bit.
Just don't stop until you find what works for your child.
The parents and their children have been the inspiration for this work and remain the inspiration.
I think parents, the biggest message out there is they absolutely should not give up on their children.
My message to parents would be that recognize this is a medical problem. Don't give up. There's a lot out there that can be helpful. You have to find it, unfortunately, at the moment, but it's there. And have a lot of hope because these children do recover.